and welcome to the romance track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Z and Morgan Brice, and tonight we're going to be talking about Valentine's Day and romance and all those wonderful things. So with me tonight, I've got a couple more romance authors, and we're going to just get going here and talk about all that good mushy stuff. Piper, why don't you lead us off and tell us about you and your books?
Hi, I'm Piper Hughley, and I've been writing romance, I guess, it's going on 7 years now, because this is 2021. And I have written historical romance, and this year in July, I will be debuting with my first contemporary romance.
Awesome. Congratulations. And Seressia.
Hello, everybody. I'm Seressia Glass, and I am celebrating my 20th year as a published romance author. My first book came out in November 2000, and I'm going to finally re-release that in ebook form because it's never been on sale that way. Because 2000 was a whole different country then for romance. So I write contemporary romance and some paranormal romance, and it runs the gamut from sweet to steamy.
All right. And as Gail Z, I write epic fantasy, urban fantasy, steampunk, and more. But as Morgan Brice, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. So that's why I'm here too. Let's start talking about, what is it about Valentine's Day? People love it, people hate it. It's kind of an arbitrary day in the middle of February where you get chocolate. But, what makes it romantic? What does that mean to you? What's a good Valentine's Day for you? Go ahead, Piper.
I've been married now for 22 years, so Valentine's Day is February 14th.
How romantic.
Yeah, if something happens, like if I get to go to dinner or something like that, that would be pretty out of the ordinary. I don't know. It's just we just had some kind of covenant between us, like that Valentine's Day wasn't going to be much. I do recall that when I was dating my husband all those many years ago, and I was still in graduate school and I didn't have a lot of money, what I did was for his Valentine's Day to kind of reel him in, I taped a series of Miami Vice episodes on some VHS tapes. And I gave him 5 VHS tapes full of Miami Vice. And so that's why I'm here today.
I like that.
And it was it came on at 11 o'clock every night. And you remember the whole thing with VCRs about how you had to program it. And I was a whiz programmer. I knew it was hard for a lot of people, but hey, I had no problem with that. So every night at 11 o'clock, I would remember to program it. And so they all stacked up over time. And that was his first casualty. So that's how long ago,
Well, and people forget, but back in the day, you couldn't just stream it on Netflix.
True.
It didn't come out on Blu-ray. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people didn't have DVD players or the ability to record. You didn't have DVRs. It did take some programming skill. And so if you missed recording that episode, heaven knows when you'd get to see it again.
That's true.
And if you had a job that meant you were never home or you might not be home when something was running, you were out of luck. So that's actually a really cool present, that took time and skill, mm-hmm. but affordable on, a starting budget.
Yeah. And so, that's why it apparently worked well. But as an overall thing for me in terms of, because romance authors, you guys know this, used to around Valentine's Day, some think pieces will come out or something like that. So it's also been kind of a day when maybe romance authors get riled up, but.
How about you, Seressia?
We've been married 10 years, so I still get the greeting cards with the heartfelt sentiments on it, but we are stay-at-home folk, so it takes a lot of effort to get us to leave the house at on the best of times. So we just usually stay in. He gives me the card, I give him a card. Aw, and then we eat dinner. Because we've been together for so long, and it's not like we don't acknowledge the day. It's just that Valentine's Day is every day. So it's like, when you're dating and you're trying to impress and seal the deal, that's when we go all out and do all of the extravagant gifts and stuff. But this time, now that we've been married for so long, it's just kind of and I'd say long, but it's it just is more of a day to re-acknowledge everything that we acknowledge all the other days. Because it's like Valentine's Day for me is you taking out the trash without me having to ask. That's the best thing.
Yep. Empty the dishwasher. I'll be happy with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We've been married 33 years.
Okay.
And so I always joke about our first date, because I'd had a crush on him for a long time, and I finally got him to come visit me for a weekend, and I wanted to, really impress the heck out of him. So I planned this whole thing, and I took him out to the best ribs place in Pittsburgh, only to find that he wasn't really crazy about ribs. They also played live jazz, but at the time he wasn't really into jazz. So then, okay, but the food was good. And then we went for cocktails at this hotel bar down by the river where you could see all the lights, except I didn't realize he didn't really drink. But we were going to go up the incline to the hilltop that you can overlook Pittsburgh and have this fantastic view.
Yeah.
And these cantilevered places to, hang over the mountain and look at the view, except he didn't like heights. And so then we had one thing left. We were going to go to the planetarium and see the late night, stars showing to the music of, wasn't Led Zeppelin. It was, anyhow, it wasn't one of his favorite bands.
Oh.
So I always joke that we had to get married. So he married me so I'd quit taking him on dates. He says I remember this far more dramatically, and obviously he did have a good time because he came back. But it was one of those where, if you'd have put that in a book where everything the person did to try to impress the other person wasn't the right thing,
that's
kind of where it went.
That's funny.
So, romance authors, romance books, Valentine's Day, they kind of go together. Have you ever written a Valentine's story or not?
I haven't, but I do sometimes wonder what my characters would do on a Valentine's Day. But then, of course, for the paranormal romance ones, it's like, would they even celebrate Valentine's Day? Or it's all about, you're my mate and yada yada, and so I just killed this bad guy for you, so happy Valentine's Day.
Nothing says Valentine like a fresh bleeding corpse.
It is a religious feast day, so that's the other part of it. Yeah, so you make a good point. Would they even celebrate it? Yeah. But for my characters in the Milford College series, I had this thing about when they got married and established the school was in the summertime, but school isn't usually in session in summertime to celebrate the Founders Day of the school. So I moved it on purpose to Valentine's Day because the founders were a couple. So it's a thing that in that series that I play with in terms of when the school has their founding day celebrations. It's usually February 14th.
I did one Valentine's Day story for, it was a multi-author giveaway. We all had to write a Valentine's themed story. And it's in my Badlands series. And it, of course, you've got a psychic medium there and a homicide cop. So of course there's a murder, and of course there's, some kind of haunting or restless spirit, and it all kind of ties back up to a World War II story. So but it was fun to try to come up with something, and then, like you said, think about, well, what would the characters do? In this case, they're human, with one of them having some, psychic abilities, but you know, even humans don't necessarily make a big deal out of Valentine's Day or bring some baggage to it, which I think kind of makes exploring how the particular characters deal with it or avoid it or don't want to deal with it a little more interesting.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Whether it means something or not. There's probably people who are traumatized, because I remember the last time it was a big deal for me was in high school, whenever people would buy carnations for each other.
Yes. Yes.
That whole popularity contest, man, I still think about who.
That was, I agree. That was a bitter time.
If you got flowers versus not, So I had a boyfriend, so I got flowers, but I noticed when people didn't get, and was like, oh, I wonder how that was, or how that went. So I can imagine that, there are people who probably may have feelings that are not so warm and fuzzy about it.
Now, do you write established couples, or are all of your books, a new couple meeting and falling in love, or is it a mix of that?
Yeah, mix. So my Milford College series is what I call the married couple romance. Where the first book, that was a marriage of convenience, and then the second book, there's a traumatic thing that happens that pulls them apart, and the same thing with the third book. So they kind of have to rediscover each other, because that's what has to happen in a marriage. So but the rest of this contemporary will be a couple meeting each other for the first time. So
that's very cool. Mine are all different. They're new relationships. But now you've got me thinking. It's like, maybe for my urban fantasy, I should have Kira and Kafar actually go on a date and nobody turns up dead. That might actually be, I think it's time for them to actually go on a romantic date for a change, and have there not be a body count involved. That would actually, I think they would probably find that very refreshing. It's like, we've never had a night out, just a date. It'll be interesting to see how they interact with each other as normal people going out on a date. I may have to just do that just for fun and see what happens.
That would be cool.
Yeah, most of my series, of course, start out with the couple meeting each other and falling in love, but I like to write established relationships, because to me, the meeting and falling in love is the easy part. It's the making it work and keeping the magic, when you're living together and somebody's got a head cold and, somebody else stubbed their toe and it's a bad day. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
And so I love to see people deal with that in and around all the, shifters and psychics and magic and murder and all that. And they're still just dealing with the, I love you, but I want to strangle you moments. And as one does.
Yeah.
So now we were joking around about everyday romance, but when you watch Hallmark movies, or when you watch TV, or certainly when you watch all the things that, all those swoopy diamond commercials that try to sell you very expensive jewelry, we do have these expectations of what it's supposed to look like. What somebody mentioned taking out the garbage without being asked. Definitely romantic. So they don't do that unless they really care. But what's romantic to you, or what is the most romantic thing that ever happened to you?
I think it was one Christmas. It was not, well, I think it was Christmas, because I said, Valentine's Day is not ever been a big deal. But my husband did buy me a laptop once when I was not expecting it. And the incarnation that I had, it was dying off. And I really wasn't expecting it. So that came in very handy, because as writing goes and everything, I needed it. So, and I was just shocked he was able to pull it off. So that is for me. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think the most kind of romantic hero kind of thing that my husband did was we were living in this townhouse at the time, and we'd bought a chest of drawers, and we were taking it upstairs to the master bedroom. And because I was short, I was on the stairs and he was lifting up from behind, but some way it got unbalanced and it fell on me.
Oh no.
And so I fell back, it fell on me, and next thing I knew, it was gone. It's like it just kind of flew, and he picked me up, and I'm like, okay, now that surprised me because it's like I'm not pick upable.
Oh.
You know? And he was just so concerned and worried that making sure that I was all right, and I thought it was funny, so I was laughing, and he's like, it's not funny, could have been hurt. Shaking me, and I'm like, I'm hurting now. I had a scrape on my arm, and he was just like, rah, rah, rah. He raged for like 10 minutes because I got hurt by this chest of drawers that was now laying in the foyer instead of the stairs. So I was like, it's like, oh, that's so sweet. But, it's something simple like that that kind of I don't know, revs your engine a bit. He displayed that, my woman's hurt and I'm going to kill the thing that hurt her.
I was just thinking as he got that chest of drawers.
Truly true.
I know when we were dating, we were in our early 20s. Nobody had any money. And we'd gone out to dinner a couple of times. But this time, we were both broke. And he cooked dinner for me. And he made twice baked potatoes. And, that was fancy. And I was thinking, okay, this guy's a keeper. He can cook. This is really good.
Could he cook, or was that the only thing?
No, he can cook.
Okay.
I was so impressed that he took the effort to make those, fancy potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
I felt very honored. So when you're creating your different characters, and of course they all come with different backstories and different personalities, and they may or may not have magic, they may or may not be human. Even if you aren't writing them on Valentine's Day per se, how do you think through what they consider to be a romantic gesture? And do they ever try something that they think is being really romantic that just falls flat because the other person doesn't get it, or it's not their thing? So it's kind of a two-part question, How do you think through romance from their eyes?
This kind of depends on what they need, right? I mean, it's like that's why I think for what I do my little Miami Vice tapings, as a show was like, but he liked it, So, and I made note of that. That's the thing. So if somebody's able to make note of what someone else wants or needs and is able to follow through on that, I think that's the thing that is important. So as for characters, in terms of, and this is a thing that comes about, I think, in terms of the whole who's alpha and who's beta, in terms of the hero, whether or not he's able to do that thing to take care of or to handle whatever the heroine needs, whether she likes it or not. This is one of my, it looks in terms of A Champion's Heart, when it was a second chance romance and he abandoned her at the altar. They were supposed to get married on their night of their high school graduation, and they were going to meet up at the train station, and he takes an earlier train. And then he comes back 7 years later, and of course she's a little bit hostile towards him. just a little hostile. But she's in need, right? She's in need of trying to get these kids, these foster kids that she has, out of Georgia to their new life in Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh myself.
Oh, okay. Lived there for 10 years.
So he has to do something about that. He has to, and she doesn't want him to. You know, she's very much in this mode of, I can take care of it myself. Why don't you go back and hit the road? Like, that's where you had been doing. Why don't you go back and do that thing? So it just seems so important to you. But him being able to take care of what she needed, he had to go acquire an old bus and fix it and get all the kids on and make sure that all the kids are in the place. And then as they're traveling, one of the things I did is I wrote it the year before the Green Book was available. The Green Book was available in 1936, but I purposefully placed it in 1935 because what would somebody do who was Black and traveling? How would they know how to travel without it? That was something that he had acquired in the years that he'd been away with her. He knew how to go through and go to all of these places. So she has to, or she does, you know, break down her defenses, and they get their HEA in the end. So I think that's an important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
That's very good.
I have deadline brain, and I just remembered something. Piper, you were talking about how you taped episodes of Miami Vice. My hero taped DVR'd episodes of the heroine's favorite show because she was off at the cosplay competition, and now they're doing the at-home session. So first night they're back home, they're sitting on the couch and getting to watch all of her favorite shows.
That's awesome. Yeah. See, yeah.
Okay,
That's
so
so great.
that's the modern. that's the now version of that. So yeah, I think it's just my characters just being observant of each other. So it's not necessarily that the character asks for something. It's just that they observe that there's something that could be a need or would be a nice to have, and then they turn around and do that for the other character. For example, when both of them have anxiety as they're trying to do this competition, they like to bite the heads off of gummy worms. So one thing they do is keep jars of gummy worms in the shop while they're working. So they make sure that that's filled. So their love language is gummy worms and gummy bears.
Mm-hmm. See?
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
that is so cute.
What I run into with my characters is the biggest aphrodisiac is trust and believing, because usually there's one person that has some sort of psychic gift or something paranormal about them, and often the other person doesn't and may have never run into any of that. So are they going to believe them or not? Are they going to belittle them? And, you know, one of my characters is a psychic medium, and his ex-fiance always, you know, kind of shamed him for talking about that nonsense and you know, just dismissed it. So to have a partner that takes them seriously, that values that believes that they see these things where they can do these things, even if it's kind of a shock and they have to work up to it, that's a huge piece, is that trust to, okay, I haven't seen this, but I don't think you're crazy. I'm going to believe you, and I'm going to place my life in your hands. This is not just, oh yeah, well, whatever. It's, no, you say we need to run because somebody's going to kill us, and I don't see it, but okay, we'll run. I'll believe you. That's a huge piece, is that trust. And I think, you know, even for those of us who can't see the future, or summon ghosts or change into wolves, having someone who gets us and gets our, you know, our fandoms or our favorites or whatever those things are that really light us up inside, that other people have often told us, oh, that's silly, or why don't you grow up, or really, you like that? Having somebody else who gets it, or at least, even if they don't share the excitement, they let you be you and don't, you know, shame you for it.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
That's true.
So I love to see something as simple as that in a story, that people let each other be each other.
That's how you know somebody loves you, is when they let you be yourself, you know, and that's any, I think, relationship that you have. When I said, you know, I pointedly think about my mother sewing, you know, the Halloween costumes for me when I was Laura Ingalls Wilder when I was 10. I mean, you know, she might have just said, "You're a little Black girl with an afro. You don't, that's not going to work for you." But she didn't do that. She go in it, made me a sunbonnet and got me a slate and a little lunch pail and all of that. So that's how you show love to people. You accept them for this is your little weird child, and you go on ahead and, you know, do for her. So,
Hey, the best thing about cosplay is anybody can be anything.
and that's the thing. But back then, you know, people would, you know, there were people who would say that. I think there's no people now who would say that to a child, you know. But
Like, you're weird. Get outside and play. Why is your nose in a book all day? Go outside. Yeah, that happened quite a bit, you know.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yeah. Playing was like, why does anybody want to do that to me?
There are books to read.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, like, what is that? I don't even know. I'm like,
It's dirty outside and sweaty.
yeah, and you know, it could
And I've
rain
got
or
books,
something.
the comic books that I need to go
You know, like, no.
And that's kind of one of the other things, that when you have characters that are comfortable with each other, sometimes that's not the exciting thing that makes for good TV, because one of the best things you can do with someone you're really comfortable with is to spend all night quiet on the couch, each of you reading a book, sharing the snacks in the middle, and nobody moves.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not exciting, not great TV drama, but that's really cool.
Yeah, that is really cool to be able to do that.
Even with friends, I remember I had my reading friends who would come over, and they'd pick a book and I'd pick a book, and we'd just sit there and we'd read. And once in a while we'd say something, but we'd read. My mom would come up because we'd been quiet for too long. And I don't know whether she thought we like slipped out the window or what, but she'd just come up and I'd be in my beanbag. Somebody else would be like flopped across the bed with a book. And, oh, okay. Do you want anything to eat? You know?
Don't have to do anything. Yeah, but in fiction, though, that's not necessarily what's going to get the couple to their happily ever after. They have to be kind of more active than that. It may have to do with food, you know, and that's what, for this contemporary, for me, that's what it had to do with, the impression that the hero makes on her. And he says, well, what do you want for lunch? And she tries to get all smarmy with him. Well, you know, make me some huevos rancheros. How about that? You know, toss it off. And, you know, he does. So there's this whole aspect of, you know, that kind of thing. If somebody makes something for you or has something prepared for you that you like, I got my husband, I joke that I willed him in by making banana pudding. You know, in the South here, you know, there's the whole thing with banana pudding. And I was raised up north in Pittsburgh. I had been exposed to it one time, but I didn't really know what that was, what the appeal was. You know, in Pittsburgh, they don't put Dilla wafers in by the bananas, right? But they do that here.
Yes, we do. You have to use the whole box, the entire box of Nilla wafers.
They did not do that here, I mean, in Pittsburgh, but now you go, you don't even have to go over to the cookie section. You have to go to the cookie section in Pittsburgh. But yeah, and I learned that was his favorite dessert. The days when it was still on the box. Bad move, Nabisco, to take it off the box. But yeah. Yeah, so I made banana pudding. You can make banana pudding. Yes, I can.
I just did.
You decided to go ring shopping, I bet.
Well, and then there's the highest praise, of course, was when he admitted that mine was as good as his mother's. So.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yes.
But food really does play into it, and whether it's going out for a very pricey, fancy dinner, or staying home and making something, or going to the person's favorite place, even if it isn't pricey or fancy, food's usually somewhere in that courtship thing. And I know in normal years, we have this fondue place that we go to just because it's different from anything else we do all year long, and their chocolate and their cheese. Oh my gosh, But I have a fondue pot here. I can melt cheese just as well as anybody else. So we can kind of do it here, which is sort of nice when you can roll with that. But I was just thinking, when you're saying it's finding out what the other person likes, it's not buying them roses because roses are what you're supposed to do. If they've mentioned that their favorite flower is daisies, then you bring them daisies, and who cares what anybody else thinks.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Any secret foods there for you, Seressia?
Well, I'm on this keto diet, so all of my favorite foods have gone out the door.
You brought up banana pudding. I'm sorry. I remember you was on the keto.
Yeah, I had to say goodbye to banana nut bread, French fries, Lay's potato chips, all that good stuff. But I have found some alternatives, so I'm very
Your
happy.
alternatives look great.
And I can still have fettuccine, not fettuccine. I can still have Alfredo, just not the fettuccine part. So you find your workarounds, and you do those. I can still eat steak, so that's great. So, yeah.
Well, sometimes love is not eating the thing in front of your partner that they can't have for whatever reason.
Yeah, luckily, well, and sometimes love is deciding to go on the diet that your partner has to be on and not complaining about it. So that was very nice. He's been very supportive of me having to do this lifestyle change, and he's gone along with it. So, and he's of course dropping weight like nobody believes, because of course he's a guy and that's what guys do. So he's been very happy with the results too. So I'm just glad that he's decided to go along with it, and I don't have to make 2 meals every day.
Yeah.
Yes. That's always the hard part, is when you have to do 2 meals. Oh, so
Awesome.
any other
posting them on social media, and it's like, oh, that looks kind of good.
Oh yeah, as soon as I found keto-friendly desserts, oh, he was all in. When I made the peanut butter cookies, he's like, I can marry you all over again.
There you go. There you go.
Well, and with the whole food thing, I did something for the Coastal Magic anthology that they're putting together, and they had to be short stories, but they had to have a recipe as part of it. And mine was about a food memory that somebody had that was far more important to them than their new partner understood, which led to misunderstandings and hurt feelings and makeup sex. But it could totally happen. We get attached to food, which I think is why it plays such a big part in wooing a partner or courting someone, because food's important and food's special, and it's kind of one of those love languages, whether or not it should be, but food is often how people tell us they love us.
Yeah. And I said, and I was able, I went through with it in the banana pudding. It's like, it's so slimy, and then it's like the bananas turn, and what is that? But he loves it, so there you go.
Are there any tropes from, doesn't have to be Valentine's Day, but the schmoopy falling in love part of things, tropes that you like to kind of turn on their head, or tropes that you don't see a lot that you'd like to see more of, or just something fresh with tropes?
No, in the Love Con one that I just finished, it's friends to lovers, but he's been in love with her since they were in high school, and so he's come up with this plan to win her over, and her being in this competition and having to do the final costume with her significant other. He basically, and she's, flustered, and because she's not dating anybody, so she blurts his name out on live TV, and that surprises him, but he's okay with it because he wants to win her over by, pretending. He's like, I'll be the best pretend boyfriend ever, and then she'll decide that she wants to, keep that going even after the competition. So that's kind of my take on a trope. Yeah, that's the closest. That's the one that I'm doing right now.
Yeah, for Sweet Tea, mine is the enemies to lovers thing. Yeah, which is it's kind of hard to pull out because it's enemies to lovers with a grouchy heroine and a cinnamon roll hero. I think we tend to want to accept the grouchy hero so much more.
Right.
And a grouchy heroine, a grouchy Black woman heroine.
Right, because people will be like, oh, she's so unlikable, and it'll be even harder with her being being Black and being grouchy, because
Yeah.
But if anybody can do it, Piper.
Oh, thank you. The struggle's real. It's like but yeah, I mean, and like I said, and with this recent advent of this whole cinnamon roll thing in these past few years, I've been having some various thoughts about that. I mean, because there is a whole aspect in terms of romance, in terms of, I think, with the fantasy aspect of it, how much readers are willing to take with that in terms of the heroes. Now, I'm surprised we haven't said the B word this whole time. But having watched it from afar, I've not yet watched it. But I'm wondering if there might be some breakthrough that happens with heroes and their acceptability from the B word, maybe. But yeah, this whole aspect with who's permitted that cinnamon roll gooiness as a hero and who's not. There's still some stuff there that that's being worked out, I think. But usually somebody who's able to come out with a striking example of it and everybody loves it or whatever, and then it's off to the races. So we'll see.
Yeah, one of the ones that I just did it was originally in Heart to Heart 4, which was a paranormal mail collection, and now it's out standalone. But the difficulty there was one of my characters was a squirrel shifter, and the guy he had just fallen head over heels for was afraid of squirrels. Now that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. That is a problem.
But fortunately, Madden is a badass squirrel. And it ends up being a hurt comfort trope, and he saves the day, he saves the hero, and he gets the guy. Just not a bad day's work for a squirrel.
This is true.
I have not read that
So
one. Now I need to read the Squirrel Shifter.
I know.
I have to see how that works.
It's like
called Nutty for You, and it's in Prolific Works. Okay. It's free. But before we wrap things up here, tell everybody what you're working on right now, what your new releases have been, what's coming up, and tell us where they can find you. So, Piper?
Well, they kept referring to my first contemporary romance, Sweet Tea, comes out July 13th from Hallmark Publishing. So it's my first foray into that. We'll see what happens from there with it. I don't know if it's going to be something that sticks or, if I continue with it. But it's an idea I've had for a very long time. And when I produced it, it got purchased. And so, yeah, going to give it a try and see what happens from there. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. People ask about whether it's a movie or not. It's not a Christmas story, which at the time they were looking for things that were not Christmas. I guess you could maybe it was all for reasons. They have a lot of Christmas. In terms of it's a spring story. So hopefully, it may, but we, have to go through the P word first.
And where can people find you?
I am my author page is on Amazon, Piper Hughley, and all of my social media, Facebook, Piper Hughley. I guess I'll spell Huguley. I guess that's on here. You can see that. My Twitter handle is the same thing, at Piper Hughley. I'm gonna get into Instagram. That's my if I had a resolution for 2021, that would be it. I made an attempt last year and I kept repeatedly getting hacked and taken over. So I have to figure out what to do, because I'm getting the sense that that's where the hot stuff is regarding in terms of books and stuff. So I suspect though that it'll be some iteration of my name to get back to it.
Seressia, what's coming up and where can we find you?
Ooh, I finally finished the Love Con and turned that in. So hopefully that will be out sometime this year from Berkeley Books. I actually need to get the release date on that because I can't remember what it is anymore. And I'm about to roll into the second book in that called Game On, which is the heroine is a female gamer who calls out misogynoir. I'm going to pronounce that right. Misogyny in the gaming community. And of course, the hero owns a gaming company, and she had called out one of his games, and hijinks stuff ensues. So it's kind of an enemies to lovers, and kind of but he's immediately smitten and tries to woo her with technology. So we'll see how that goes. And also I'm going to be releasing some of my first books to kind of celebrate my 20th anniversary. So those will be coming out. First one hopefully later this month, and we'll see how that goes. If people want to find me on Twitter is where I usually hang out, at Seressia. I'm also on Facebook under that, and Instagram, which is weird for me because I don't like taking pictures. But I like taking pictures of other stuff. I just forget. Seressia Glass out there on the Instagram. And of course, like Piper, there are people who, for some weird reason, want to, clone me and, put extra S's in there and all those weird stuff. But yeah, luckily people who know me know that I don't friend people. I just kind of, people find me and I add them that way. I follow back a lot. I don't start the follows usually. So, but yeah, that's where people can find me, mainly on Twitter. I'm starting to get into Instagram again.
Yeah, they say it's really essential, and I'm like,
I'm with you on there because I'm trying to build out my Instagram too, and I'm much more active on Facebook, which of course I'm there under Gail Martin, Gail Z Martin, and also Morgan Brice is my. I have Worlds of Morgan Brice reader group, and Shadow Alliance is the Gail and Larry reader group. But my profile is also where most of my conversation happens. The Instagram is Morgan Brice Author. The Twitter is Morgan Brice Book. You see a pattern here. The website is Morgan Brice. Look for the name. Just put it Brice with an I. The stuff that's coming up, I've got actually two shared world things. One is a retelling of fairy tales as male romance, and that's Once Upon a Grimm. That is an anthology coming up. Should be out in March, and my story there is a magical romance retelling of the Three Billy Goats Gruff with shifters and Baphomet, and fainting goats, because one does.
They're so cute.
He's a badass fainting goat, though, darn it. And then the other one is part of a multi-author themed series, and That will be coming out in April. I'm still working on a title for that, much to my organizers' lament, but it's coming. It's coming. And so I've got a couple of good things coming up there, and lots of stuff on Prolific Works as well, including a Valentine's Day story, Cover Me, set in the Badlands universe. So that's for free.
Great.
Well,
Great.
folks, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for talking Valentine's and romance and all that good stuff. And thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. And we'll see you here in Continual for a lot more romance and fandom. See you online.
Bye.